Feeling very well when the bowler's got your number. You just don't want to get out to him. He's trying to advance down the crease. He's nicked the wide one. He'll be filthy with himself. He would have loved to have been out there and hit the winning runs. It's unfortunate for England's captain. He's going to have to watch it from the side.
Hi, everyone. This is Norman Kochnick here. I'm here in Australia watching the last throws of the fourth test between Australia and England. In fact, Australia lead 3-0 in the series. England are looking very much like they're going to win the fourth test. They're at currently 6 for 165, with England requiring 10 runs to win it. I'm calling it. I'm calling England to win, but it might go against me. I should be careful. We've got Jamie Smith going out there, with Stark now taking the wicket of. Yes, we've got caught behind there. Carey has just caught Ben Stokes from a wild woolly swish outside off stump. Very nice catch from Carey. It's another wicket to Stark, who's taken, I think, 25 wickets for the series. And Australia have got England 6-165, chasing 175 to win. Now, that would normally be a cakewalk, and it should be a cakewalk. Jamie Smith come out. He's already scored 1,200 runs. He hasn't scored many runs this series. And yes, so England, I'm predicting are going to win this series. We've got a few people share your okay. We've got a few people there. What have we got here? Let's have a look. Okay. Okay, size regular. Okay. Done. Right. What have you got there? What's going on the side there? Got the commentary going on the side there. So I can see that Smith's come out and already hit what looks like at least two, perhaps three, and has reduced the. In fact, Smith has just hit three off Stark. The score is 6 for 168. England requires 7 runs to win. This is the second day of play. We've seen now some 37 wickets fall. 37 wickets fall in less than 2 days. 20 on the first day, 17 already today. There were 3 more tests. No, in fact, I'll stand corrected. It's 36 wickets with 16 today. England is 6 for 168. Smith on 3, Brook on 13, Stark 2 for 49 into his 10th over. England needing 7 runs to win. Pretty bloody ordinary test in terms of length of the game. In fact, there's another beautiful shot there from Brook. Brook looks like he's going to hit at least, in fact, it's 4. That reduces the required runs to win to 3, with England now 6 for 172. Brook on 17, Smith on 3. England require 3 runs to win, 2 to draw, but it looks like they're going to win this match to make the series 3-1. Effectively, 3-1 is the England have lost the Ashes. In fact, Ashes has been retained by Australia, but I'll talk about it more a bit later. But the very fact that the test finishes in 2 days, and happened similarly in Perth, and it didn't last very long in Adelaide either, and in Brisbane. Australia, despite all having 94,000, I think it was somewhere in the 94,000 mark. In fact, I'll get the exact attendances for you for the test. Okay, let's have a look here. We're going to have a look. We've got a situation there where England, in fact, no, the actual crowd size was 94,199 on the first day and 92,045 on the second day. So 186. There it is. It looks like the winnings one. No, it's not. They've only just ran the one there. So there's England required 2 to win. The 6 for 173. Brook on 18. Now with Smith facing on 3. Mitchell Stark's just finished his 10th over. He's got 2 for 54. He's got some 25 wickets in the series. He probably is man of the series so far. We're still 1 test to go in Sydney on January 4th. This test has taken 2 days. Effectively, Australia have lost a bucket load of money, a shitload of money. They have lost because they won't be able to utilise the third, fourth, and fifth day of the test. There'll be tickets to the English, some 30,000 strong Barmy Army have actually purchased to see the match. They won't be seeing any cricket because it'll be over. By the time we go to Noosa, maybe jokingly, as they're jokingly saying, or off the beach. So Ben Stokes is particularly happy. The 6-174. England require 1 run to win. And here we go. Mr. Stark. In fact, he bowled a no ball for that last ball, so that's why there was extra one. So that was 144 Ks, that last delivery. Stark was 255 after 10 overs. He's bowled well in the series so for some 25 wickets. England require 1 run. Ben Stokes is ecstatic there. He's sitting on the sidelines. I can see Bashir there as well. So England are 6-174. The highest innings in this test. Australia scored some 152. England followed with 110. But then Australia only followed with 140, which gave them effectively a lead of some.
What's Harry got?
174. England now 6-174 with 1 run to win. In fact, they've tied the scores. They've tied.
Richardson to Brook, 1 to win.
So Richardson, in his ball, full toss, straight to Brook, which just hit us straight to mid-wicket there to Archer, who should keep his position. I'm going to go on to the Australian side very shortly because the Australian side, in my opinion, will look at some changes. Australian side will, I believe, should be considering some changes. Weatherall has not succeeded in the 8 innings he's had this series. He scored 170, one set score of 70. The rest have been pretty ordinary. It was very ordinary this series. So was, of course, my favourite Labuschagne. He was also pretty ordinary. There it is. There's the winning runs. England have won the 4th test. First test since January 2011 that Australia won. England have won in Australia.
Win a test match in Australia.
England win by 4 wickets. And they're ecstatic at the moment. Ben Stokes is hugging everybody. Matthew Potts and Bashir. Steve's been shaking Ben Stokes' hand. Weatherall really shouldn't be in that side. I'm sorry, Weatherall should not be in that side.
It's been a long time coming for England.
Long time coming for England. So England finished on 6-178, win by 4 wickets. Richardson finished with 2 for 22 or 5.2 overs. Brook not out 18, Smith not out 3. So England have won by 4 wickets.
Less than 65.
They felt he played very well as well.
Fantastic, Ben Stokes. Look forward to seeing the headlines tomorrow over there in England. Should have won in Perth. They had Australia on the ropes, lost that test. But from the last bit of the Adelaide test to this,
England win by 4 wickets. Australia lead the series 3-1. That's pretty significant.
Australia had the Ashes at 3-1, but this is a breakthrough win.
Yes, it is a breakthrough win for England. Very much a breakthrough win for England.
Tass and Tuck have been outstanding.
Yeah, Cass certainly was. Tongue got 5 wickets, of course. Who's the man of the match in this particular game, Mike? That's an interesting one. They may give it to Tongue.
Well done to Ben Stokes and his team. They faced all sorts of scrutiny and pressure.
It's true. They have full little scrutiny, but especially the efforts up at Noosa.
To save it for England and their supporters.
The English players are going over to Bay 13, which is traditionally an area for Australians to be. They're going over to thank the Barmy Army, which is 30,000 strong. 30,000 strong. Quite incredible. So, yes, the England players are going over and clapping the 30,000 strong Barmy Army contingent that are travelling around Australia. At the moment, they're spending a lot of money on being here with accommodation and transfers and what have you. But Cricket Australia is losing money, and they will lose big time. The Melbourne Test have only been able to have 2 of their 5 days with occupancy, television rights, commercials, etc. They're losing big time. They're paying their executives probably too much. Well, you have to wonder that. How can you be losing 11 million when you're packing stadiums? Well, something's not right. Something needs to be reviewed. but they're pretty all. But so there's Joe Root being interviewed by Ishiguro after the match. Joe Root in his 100 and well, I mean he's 162 tests for England. He's done very well. I my man of the match. I wouldn't mind giving it to Tongue. Actually, Tongue may well deserve his position. He got 5 wickets. I'll be curious to see who actually does win it. What are your thoughts, guys? Tell me your thoughts. I need to see your thoughts. So I'm just gonna edit the bottom part there. Edit that. Edit. So that's by 4 wickets. 4 wickets. There you go. There we are. England by 4 wickets. There we go. We've got someone making comments. So, not sure what's going on there. Anyway, so Australia, just to inform you again, Australia have lost the 4th test to England. England have won the 4th test by 4 wickets. They chased down 175. In fact, they got 6 for 178. With Bessel getting 40 odd, he batted very well. I'm going to still say that the man of the match should be Tongue. His bowling was particularly good in the innings this match. I think that's probably won it for them. Let me just make sure. I'll just get this sorted out. Let's just. I might get a bit of light, guys. Oops. There we are. You there? Yes, guys. I'm just trying to get some light here. Trying to get some light. Good old young Bethel. He's 22 years of age. He hasn't scored a first-class century, which is remarkable. But he's just scored a very important 40-run shot. A lot of level-headedness there in his efforts. Won't be a sec, guys. I'm just gonna hang on. Oops. All right, sorry, guys. Had a bit of a mishap here. Hang on. Give me 2 secs. All right. I'm back. We've had a bit of a disaster. Here, let's forget these. These units are never, ever very steady. All right, I'm back. Okay. So, a recap. Australia have lost the 4th test, have lost money. 2 days of attempt, not even 2 days. Some 36 wickets have fallen in 2 days. 20 yesterday in the first day, 16 today. Abysmal effort in terms of the quality of the test match. You'd have to look at the actual pitch itself being far too green, with some 10 millimetres of grass, allowed wickets to fall left, right, and centre. But England, the Barmy Army is going nuts, some 30,000 strong in Bay 13, which is traditionally an area where the likes of the Australians would support, everybody from Dennis Lilly back in the day through Merv Hughes, Dean Jones, and more recently Scott Boland. But now it's the Barmy Army territory of the 30,000. They've now put the series back into an interesting state. They're down 3-1. Admittedly, they've lost the Ashes, or Australia have retained the Ashes. But England have got a very good consolation here with young Bethel there scoring 40, a man that's 22 years of age. He looks the goods. He hasn't scored a first-class century, but he scored 40 in the most significant match of all. And Monzi J, you need to turn on the YouTube. I'm on live there. So the Australian team have witnessed a defeat, effectively. And you have to understand this. Good old Jacob Bethel there scored 40, did very well. The crowd for day one was 94,199, a record test crowd for a test match, especially Boxing Day in Australia, and probably in Australia, full stop. And the second day produced 92,045, so 186 odd thousand. In fact, it's exactly 186,244 people have attended 2 days of play, which is great. But that's only 2 of a potential 5 days. So I have lost revenue by not having last 3 days played. It's happened in Perth equally as badly in terms of numbers of days. Brisbane and Adelaide, albeit went longer, they weren't much longer. So effectively, there's been a large loss incurred by the Cricket Australia, probably yet again. I'm questioning how much the top-heavy cricketing Australia executives are getting paid, because if you're losing $11 million a year, I'd say you might have a good look at how many. If you're paying people $400,000, $500,000, God knows what they're getting paid per year, then I think you might have to start to look at that being lessened, or have a few less players, sorry, a few less officials running a rather non-transparent organisation. It's very sad. I'm just disappointed to see them losing both the BBL and women's BBL, despite having pretty good crowds, have pretty ordinary revenues coming in the door. Well, it must be said. And of course, our population is only 24, 25 million people, doesn't sustain such an outlay, because the players demand lots, both for playing Test cricket and for the BBL and WBBL. We're not getting the best players either. We've only got some of the Pakistani players playing this year, Baba Azam, Haris Rauf, and the like. They're there, but ultimately they're not playing in large numbers. We're not getting any Indian players or any significant players from other countries, South African, for example, or even English. So England won the game by 4 wickets. The Aussies lead the series 3-1. They've won the Ashes. They've retained it last game. The first 3 games they've won. Imagine if England won the first Test, which they could easily have done if they would have taken the wicket of Travis Head earlier. They would have won the first Test and won the fourth. With Australia perhaps winning the second and third, would have been 2-2 going into Sydney, which would have made Sydney a blockbuster. But now, unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. That was 3-1. I predicted a 3-2 victory to England, actually, and I'm not going to be able to get that result to happen. But I reckon there's a good chance it could be 3-2 Australia, which is a lot closer than perhaps you would have first thought. People were talking about a 5-match whitewash. That's not possible now. It's already 3-1 down. They've lost that. This is the first Test match, which is, I guess, the England players will be happy for. First Test match they've won since January 2011. It's the first match that Ben Stokes and the first match that Joe Root have won in Australia. That's a long-term period of time they haven't won, the England team, and those 2 have won their first Test match in England, which in Australia, I should say. Which I'm sure they're happy about. I'm sure they're buoyant about that. And if I look at the commentary, it's a lot of questions being asked at the Australian batting lineup. I know we've won the series, but the way that Weatherall's not really performed, in my, it really is the first time that Australia have been really tested, and Weatherall failed in both innings. Labuschagne failed in both innings. Cameron Green failed in both innings. Khawaja did as best as he could. He deserves his spot. Travis Head did well. Steve Smith tried well. Those 3 batters, Smith, Kawaja and Head are sufficiently okay. But I've got a big question mark over Weatherall. I don't think he's deserving of his spot. He's been there for 4 tests and he scored 170 and scored a lot of low scores. If he doesn't perform the last test well, he should be dropped. In my opinion, he should be dropped for this test, but that's just my opinion. I think Josh Inglis deserves more of a chance. He was batting at number 8. How can he damn well bat at 7 or 8 as a batter anyway? He was on a high to nothing. So effectively, Weatherall's the likes of Labuschagne and Cameron Green have got the people looking at their position. Bowling wise, we've got an incredible depth. Jai Richardson played very well. Nasser played well. Boland played well. Stark played well. There's a lot of depth in our bowling department. Doggett's also pretty commendable. Our bowling lineup's very strong, despite not having Pat Cummings or Nathan Lyon or Josh Hazelwood there for the last tests. They're all out injured. As England have also lost Archer and Wood, and looks like Gus Atkinson is also out, having I think pulled his left hamstring today. So England ends an 18-match winless streak in Australia. England have had 18 matches winless. They've broken that streak since January 2011. It is now basically December 2025, which is within a month of being 15 years. Sadly enough, when England won their last test was around the same time as my brother actually passed, which was 15 years ago, which is very sad. I'm ironically the same age as he was when he died. He was 61 and a half. I'm currently 61 and a half, so fingers crossed I stay longer around. Yes, there we have it. England ends its 18-match winless streak in Australia by winning here in Melbourne. They're down 3-1 in the series. They've lost the Ashes. Well, at least Australia retained the Ashes. But England commendably have won this test. And, you'd have to argue their bowler's tongue in particular. Atkinson, before he went down, there's showing the replay at the moment of how Australia got out. Scott Boland actually opened, which I'm scratching my head about that one. Why didn't Weatherall should have been opening, even if it was 1 over, I think it was rubbish. He got out playing a really poor shot to Ben Stokes just now, so he should have been should open from ball 1. Weatherall, I think, is awful. I'm still very limited stroke play. Labuschagne again nicked off. He hasn't done well either. Those two was very disappointing up the order. With Travis said batting well. Then Travis got a beautiful ball from Class, ball that really nipped back. Kawaja played an unfortunate pull shot, was caught down on the boundary by the replacement fielder Ollie Pope. And then you have Cast once again got the wicket of Carey, second slip, caught by I think it was Root. Might have been Root. Then Brook, in fact, Brook also took the wicket there. Again, I don't know if Stokes and Nesta got caught and bowled by Cast, and Australia were reeling at that stage. Then we had Stark going virtually straight off Cast, caught by Root at first slip. Then the final wicket was Joe Richardson trying to hit the ball out of the ground, caught at cover by what looks like Crawley. And Australia were all out then for only 140, as far as I'm aware. And that meant that they had a lead of already. In fact, that was 140 because Australia scored 152 in Australia, and then England scored. Sorry, Australia scored 152. England scored 110. So they were 42 in front. Then they went 132 all out Australia in the second innings, not 140, 132, giving England a 174 runs to equal 175 to win. So I'll repeat that again. Australia were all out for 152, England all out for 110, but then Australia only got 132 in the second innings. Ishigu was announcing the player of the match, I'm pretty sure. Let's have a look here.
I'd now like to ask Ashley Cousins, proud Kirai Warren Gunijmara man and descendant of Yellowknack, one of the first 11 all-Aboriginal cricket team of 1868, to present the medal to this year's winner. On a tricky pitch, the top score was 46, but for his 7 wickets in the match and a test match fifer on Boxing Day, Josh Tongue is the NRMA Insurance Player of the Match.
As I thought, Josh Tongue's won the NRMA Player of the Match. He got some 7 wickets. He bowled particularly with a fiver.
Smile on your face, you get the test match win, but a fifer on Boxing Day, the stuff of dreams, I imagine.
Yeah, it's what dreams are made of.
Josh Song is saying his dreams are made of that.
But yeah, to get five and get my name on the honours board, yeah, it's a really special feeling.
The crowd are pretty loud at the moment. The Barmy Army getting behind you. Just talk us through just how special an occasion it was with 95,000 people yesterday.
94,000 people yesterday.
These past 4 games, and especially
Josh Sung is the player of the match. Mitchell Stark probably get the player of the series, by the way.
We talked to
But Josh Sung deservedly so.
3 years ago, you questioned
Took
your
a 5,
future
took 7 for all together. Did very well.
How are you that you stuck with it?
So Josh Sung actually came back from a severe shoulder injury, back into play. He's come back from that to take 5 weeks. He got 5 for 45 off 11.2 overs in the first innings, and 2 for 44 off 11 in the second. He won the player of the match. So effectively, he was the player of the match, but in England have won. They're down still 3-1 on the series. Could easily won the first test. That would have made this 2-all. Imagine how dramatic that would have been. Had it been 2-all, would have been fantastic. We would have had a very, very close series indeed at 2-all. And unfortunately, we didn't have that. So anyway, all well and good. I'm getting comments on the screen. I can barely read them. I'm going to have to try and got that there. What's this? Christmas pack. What's this? Brand. Recording process. Trying to work out what. So Paul Newman, England will be hoping for a similar wicket in Sydney, I bet. Paul, you're probably right. They probably will. But I actually think that well, Australia will be desperately trying to, or Cricket Australia will be desperately trying to make the fifth test in Australia, in Sydney, go for 5 days, so they can at least get their revenue back. Because despite having 290-odd thousand bumper crowds here today and yesterday, they missed out on 3 days worth of revenue from both broadcasting rights, from the on the ground aspects. They've lost it quite heavily again. Puts a lot of money, takes a lot of money to put a game on, and after losing 11 million last year, they'll be losing probably the same again this year, having to pay out quite a bit for the players. Too much for the executives, by the way. There were too many unnecessary positions in Cricket Australia. I've got no idea why we need so many. We really should get right back to the bare bones of a squad of people who actually go about contributing to the game and not just fluffing around doing roles, which I'm a bit perplexed by. In fact, I'm damning of Cricket Australia. I think it's unfortunate that they're not more supportive of the players than they are, and they're basically sitting on their hands a bit with their revenue. How could you lose money on Australian cricket being the biggest sport, virtually the biggest sport in Australia, and with a great international audience, especially now with England here, some 30,000 to 40,000 strong people from England here supporting the Ashes tour, the Barmy Army. They've some 30,000 at the MCG on both days, at Bay 13 and the like, enjoying and singing on merrily, enjoying the sort of. Ben Stokes is talking right now.
It's been not only a tough tour for us as a team out here, but
so England scored the biggest
so
innings of the whole match. We saw, as I said, 152 to Australia in the first innings, followed by England's 110. So Australia were already 42 runs in front. But then England fought back and got Australia all out for 132, which meant that they were left with 174 to draw, 175 to win. And they did it quite handsomely. 6 for 178, with Bethel, for example, getting 40 runs. The likes of Crawley and Duckett doing very well as openers. Bit of baseball going on, but it was worth watching big time. When is the last test? We had a Boxing Day. This is too short. The next test is actually on January the 4th, which is over a week away now, because this test finished so early. So January 4th to 8th. So 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th of January are the days of the 5th test in Sydney, which I'll be there, of course. Unfortunately, I can't promise it'll last that long. So far, the Perth and Melbourne test did not last that long. The Brisbane test was not very long either. Adelaide was a bit longer. Certainly I think it went to the 5th day, did it not? But yeah, that's not really indicative of a great series. So Ben Stokes is there. He's talking to Shigua, who's a fantastic commentator, by the way. I do like her way. Some of the elements leave a bit to be desired. Not for, as a few commentators I've got no time for at all. I'm not going to mention them. but one has a brother who played Test cricket with him. Okay, so Westpac are the major sponsor for Cricket Australia. Some very ordinary commercials, but anyway, it's Westpac. NRMA, of course, are naming rights for this particular tour. Ben Stokes will be very happy having won his first test on Australian soil. Also, Joe Root scored his first century on Australian soil and has won his first test on Australian soil as well. They've unearthed Bethel. I feel sorry for Ollie Pope. I think he's a good player. Crawley and Duckett, I rate Brooke, Stokes, Root. They've got a pretty good batting line. I mean, they're not shoo-ins. Our bowling attack has been very strong, with Mitchell Stark leading the charge, Scott Bowl not far behind, and without the likes of Nathan Lyon, Cummins, and Hazel in this test, we've done very well with the bowling department. Jai Richardson was bowled particularly well. Michael Nesnisa taken 5 wickets in the previous. He certainly has done very well as well. Dockett looked pretty commendable. So Australia's bowling stocks are pretty solid. Todd Murphy missed out, but he was worthy of a chance. Josh English is a player that I think should be in the squad. I would actually drop Weatherall, and I would put Josh English in and give him a chance up the order, opening with Khawaja. My batting lineup for the 5th test would be Josh English and Khawaja opening. I'm going to say Labuschagne, but I don't think he deserves to be there. Steve Smith at 4. Travis Head back to 5, or I think he does fit better. They keep putting Carey on at 6. They're like Cameron Green will stay at 7. Nisa and Stark will be 8 and 9. Boland 10. And they should be keeping Jai Richardson as well, a fit at 11. So the Australian side won't change in the bowling department at all. Cam Green just keeps his position. Labuschagne just keeps his position, but I'll be dropping Weatherall and putting Josh English back as an opener and putting Khawaja as the opener. That's my test team. Webster surely has to be in now. Well, if Paul, if you think that Bo Webster's in, then if Bo Webster goes in, it's going to have to be Cameron Green dropped, or would you include Bo Webster and drop Weatherall and put Khawaja back up to opener? Maybe Khawaja should open with well, if you're going to leave Green in and put Bo Webster in, then Bo Webster and Cam Green can both play then, but you'll have to open them with Khawaja with Head, and that would mean I believe Weatherall should be dropped. That's my honest opinion. I think he's 170 early on was okay, but he's done very little. He seems to be getting worse, and he's showing flaws in his technique. His head's leaning over. Dave Warner pointed it out. His head's leaning over. He's choosing wrong shots. That last ball letting it go. I think he's off stump. That's a complete no-no for opening batsman. So England in the last session were 4 for 101. England wins the session and match. In fact, England have won 5 of the 6 sessions of play. It's only 2 days of play. England won 5 of the 6 sessions. That shows they were deserving winners. What's his name? What is that? Norman, sack the curator. Nah, okay. We're talking about sacking the curator. Wait a minute. Sacking the curator? The curator does his job, and I would not knock them. It's a very difficult job. That they would have been given advice from Cricket Australia on how they wanted the pitch to play. I'll tell you right now, Cricket Australia were not devoid of knowing about what the pitch they would have wanted. Australia were always going to play without a spinner, and by doing so, they were looking at the wicket being a pace wicket. They knew England were vulnerable in that way. So now the curator's not the Matthew Page, like his name. He's not necessarily the issue. Cricket Australia have a lot to answer for. I tell you what, they would have been overriding the pitch. They actually leased the ground. So whatever happens to the ground is their responsibility. So the fact the grass was that they could have easily made the grass a lot shorter. So I sort of Oh boy. So I'm live on Channel 4, as you can see. They're sending out emails to people about that. Okay. All right. So back to the test. If you only just joined us now, I'm not able to see the commentary. What have we got here? 90,000 fans every day, millions watching on TV, and you're putting us not acceptable. I beg your pardon. Do you understand that they've got 90,000 people watching? But I'm not putting shit on anyone. I'm telling you the truth. Cricket Australia for the last 2 years has lost money. Okay, they've lost money, and they get 90,000 people attending. That's successful. The people are there watching, but they're losing money. I'm not putting shit on anyone. I'm telling you the truth. Don't you say to me in your comment that I'm putting shit on. I'm telling the facts. How can cricket somebody be losing money? Where is the money going that they're making? They're paying the players a lot of money, granted. Where is the rest of the money going? Where is the rest of the money? How can they be losing 11 million in a year and having full attendance? And not having 5 days, they've lost money because they haven't had 5 days. 90,000 people. Tell me where the money's going. Why are they losing $11 million? Can you explain it to me? No. So don't say that I'm putting. I'm saying the facts. How can a so-called or non-transparent body like Cricket Australia be losing money over the last 2 or 3 years when they got Big Bash, Women's Big Bash, and Test cricket where they fill the grounds? Something's not right there. They're outlaying too much money for what? Is what I want to know. I reckon their executives are getting paid too much to start with. Players, well, I think they're getting paid correctly, but the money's going out the door somewhere. So yeah, that's the reality of it. That's why there's 90,000 people in 2 days. That's 98 days on 2 days. It's a 5-day test normally. The money would fill all 5 days. And India, they don't always fill the stadiums, but they make money. They make money. Okay, you've got a bigger population in India. I respect that, and that's probably why they're making money. Australia's smaller population, I understand it's more difficult, but we cannot sustain the Big Bash and Women's Big Bash without input from the likes of the IPL franchises. One IPL franchise has up to $16 billion in worth. We, as a collective organisation of Cricket Australia, aren't worth, I couldn't even tell the exact figure, but $500 million would be a stretch. So we're not able to compete with teams where there's only one team with 16 billion. We're not competing with that, but we should be able to make money. Their executives should be paid less, should be less executives, less staff. They've got this fluff, this ambassador roles with a bunch of people who are being brought in and being fed to the hilt. What are they actually doing? Nothing. They're just most of them are people who have got no credibility to be an ambassador of any country. To be very honest with you, some of them I've got real question marks about. And I think well, I know who they are. Some of them are actually, there's two of them. One Sri Lankan guy in Melbourne and a guy in Sydney. They're charlatans. One is bogus by a country mile. He shouldn't even be in the country. But generally, supporters of cricket are big in a country like India. But we've got a couple of people representing those countries here that don't deserve their positions. There's a lot to be asked for. Okay, I've got my damning stories about that. I'm not impressed by them at all. In fact, Cricket Australia needs to work out where their money's being lost. Should get longer test matches. I think Michael Vaughan made a point that this was not a test match. I agree. Although it was a very exciting match, it was not a test match. We had 90,000 people at each day. Barmy Army have come here to watch more cricket. I think so far the test series has been, 13 days worth of matches in 4 test matches. 4 test matches should equal 20 days. Well, they've equaled about 13 days, 11 days to win the Ashes. So 13 days out of 20, that means there's 7 days of cricket not being played. So I'm not hanging shit on anyone. The person that made that comment, I'm stating the fact. Cricket Australia are just pretending to be, I've got my concerns about their transparency. How could they be loose? Explain to me how an organisation that has all of the country watching loses money by $11 million in a year. I can't explain it. If they're filling stadiums 90,000, they should be profiting from today. Well, their money's going somewhere where it's not been directed properly, or it's been misspent or overpaid expenses, namely the executives. The players deserve to be paid, but we're not even able to afford good players in our BBL and WBBL. Very suspicious and very concerning. What do I think about what the pitch. Look, if I'm being really honest with you, the pitch may have been not a perfect test pitch, but Cricket Australia have some responsibility to oversee the pitch production, as they've got the lease on the ground for the Ashes series. So the match, they could have easily, if they left 10 millimetres of grass, well, they should have been instructed to cut that down from the start and not have such a large amount of grass. So is that the curator's fault? Partly, yes. But it's also the responsibility of the ones organising the events as well. So the pitch was unfortunate, but both teams had to play on that pitch. Both teams played on that pitch. Both had the same exposure. And in this case, England were more suited to, especially the weather on the first day was more of a typical English day of cricket, which was great. We've got the likes of Gilchrist, Michael Vaughan, who I really respect, Leslie Healy, who I really respect, and Mark Waugh there commentating on the match. Michael Vaughan's very scathing about the pitch, and I agree with him. But I want to know why Cricket Australia is losing their money. I'm not getting answers from anywhere obvious. It's not just one year; it's been a couple of years in a row that their approach to the BBL and WBBL, albeit admirable, is not good enough. They need to expand it, include IPL franchises, get better revenue from incomes that will relate to better players. And Cricket Australia needs to work out what's going wrong with their length of their test matches and games around it. Obviously, there's not a lot of prep going on. The publicity machine is just can't be working. Well, if it is, where is the money going? How could Cricket Australia be losing money the last couple of years? It may well be longer than that, but it's definitely in the last couple of years. Scratch your head. An organisation should be making money. When you've got 94,000 and 92,000 respectively on the first 2 days of a test match, they should be profitable days. Now, if they are, that's great. But in fact, but not being 5 days, they've effectively lost money. They would have received revenue from the ticketing for the last 2 to 3 days, and unfortunately, yeah, they have not made money. Josh Tongue was player of the match, took 5 very significant wickets in the first innings. Australia all out for 152. England failed with 110, to be honest with you, in their first innings. But Australia equally didn't play well in their second innings with 130s who had been scored. Josh Tongue bowled well, Cast bowled well. Gus Atkinson, before he was injured, played bowled well. And Ben Stokes, fantastic with bat and ball, as always. A lot of time for Ben Stokes. And Bazball, if they say he's dead, well, they've just won a test match. By their second innings was certainly a lot more about attacking cricket, and they dominated early. Took their chances, both Ben Duckett and Crawley did well. Bethel was tremendous at being his first test match in the Ashes series, first test match on Australian soil. Baptism of fire going in there, number 3. 22 years of age, has not scored a first-class century, but scored 40 at a very crucial stage of the match. Very impressive indeed. So, it's Gus Atkinson, he seems to have done his left hamstring. So we've got a comment going out about, for those who had planned to attend tomorrow morning's, okay. Yeah, so they're cancelling breakfasts, they're cancelling functions, so that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the Barmy Army will certainly go and spend their money, hopefully in Melbourne somewhere, maybe go to the Great Ocean Road. They're great fans, fantastic fans. I'm looking forward to them being in Sydney. They're a great body of fans. I'm really impressed indeed. But yes, Australia versus England, January the 4th, will be live on the various channels. Again, England have won the 4th test by some 4 wickets. Australia lead the series 3-1, have retained the Ashes after winning the first 3 test matches. The Sydney Test, albeit still live, it's not a dead rubber, with the World Test Championship points applying to every single match. This is important for England. Australia have lost their first match in a fair while. This is after going 18 games winless in Australia, England have now won their first Ashes Test since January 2011, which is just shy of 15 years. As I mentioned earlier, when they last won a test match in Australia was when my brother passed away. He was 61 and a half, and I'm now, 15 years later, he's the same age. We've got the Big Bash following the test match with Brisbane Heat versus the Adelaide Strikers. Australia's have to try to keep the audience there watching after the Test cricket straight onto the BBL. The Big Bash, I'm sorry, is not living up to its potential. They need to expand it to be more of an IPL franchise commitment to get more faces watching it from overseas, especially India, and start to turn a profit, because they're not turning a profit and they're losing again quite severely in this test match after getting 94 and 92,000. They've lost 3 days worth of revenue through gate takings and all the matters that go with that. And they've, as I said, they've played 4 tests, which should equal 20 days of cricket. I think it's some 13 that have been played, with 2 in both Perth and Melbourne. And then you got some 9 days, I think 4 days in Brisbane, and they got to the 5th day, I think, in Adelaide. That's where it was the longest. You can blame the pitch, but no, the cricket's trying to oversee those pitches, so it's not the pitcher's fault or the curator's fault. The curator will be told to do something different, I'm sure, but he didn't put 10 millimeters or whatever it was or 10 centimeters, well, not 10 centimeters, 10 millimeters of extra grass on there by accident. He would have been instructed how the pitch would like to be prepared, I'm sure. He just doesn't, they don't just do it. They wouldn't put that amount of grass on a pitch if they thought it was, not to the benefit of the match. Okay, but anyway, both teams have to play on the same field. Both teams have to bat and bowl. And again, Australia got 152, which was a very low score. It's the lowest score Australia's had in their combined testings for a long, long time. So 152 and 132. So they scored 284 in their 2 matches, 2 innings. And England scored 288, winning the match. So 152, Australia all out. England all out for 110. So Australia were led by 42 runs. And that was in the first day's play. 152 and 110 all out, 20 wickets, with Australia none for 4, with crazily bowling up in the batting. It was craziness. Then the second day, which has just transpired, not even finished, we not even completed the full day. Australia were all out for 132, and that left England the ability then to go on and score 178, losing 6 wickets. So Australia are all out for one. They lost 10 for 132 today. And yeah, other than a bit of support from all those, in terms of Australian batting line, it was only really Travis Head who scored 46. The rest of the team scored very little. In fact, I'll go back to them. Weatherall failed again. I think out of his 8 innings in the first 4 tests, he's only got 1 decent score, and he's got several very ordinary scores of 20 or less. Why is he the opener? Why has he been left in that long? He shouldn't be in there for that long. Someone's favouring him. He shouldn't be opening, in my opinion. Labuschagne, despite getting a couple of 50s, in general, in his 8 innings, failed in 6 of the innings. And he, after having been dropped for previous form, he's not done enough. He's on his last legs as well. I'd drop whether I'd bring Inglis back in the team. I'd open with him in Khawaja. I'd put Travis Head further down the order. I would put Labuschagne for one more go. Smith, Head. Then there is some question about whether we put Bo Webster or not, but Green. I think Alex Green will probably stay. In terms of the bowling lineup, I think they've been very admirable. Nessa, obviously Stark, and Boland all bowled well, and Richardson was quite admirable as well. Whether Stark's up to playing 5 tests in a row, it looks like he probably will, and it could also be quite his last test if he decides to retire. It'll be his 88th test match, and he's very close to reaching the same number of runs as Mike Hussey, actually, which will be an achievement and a half. All right, so recapping again on today's play. Australia were all out for 132, and England lost 6 wickets, chasing down a win of 175. They got 178, in fact. And Bethel got a very decent 40, and both Crawley and Duckett got in the 30s, and were quite admirable in their batting efforts. The bowling department, Australia were bowling again, bowled well. So did Stark, Richardson, they all bowled well, but England batted sufficiently well to get the highest score out of the test match. After scoring 110 in their first, they scored 178 for 6 in the second. Australia only could muster 152 and 132. in their respective innings. So England has won the fourth test in Melbourne at the MCG by 4 wickets and has left Australia in the lead 3-1. They won't be a whitewash final. It will not happen now. And they're in danger of losing the fifth test. And we must not forget that we're not going to have Cummins or Lyon that last match. Hazelwood's also out. So that batting and that team lineup will probably stay the same. Travis Head, I'll commend him, but I don't think he should be opening. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions you want to ask me? Let me have a look at this. This test would have surpassed the highest test tennis record, eclipsing the India versus boxing, but it didn't. Feeling sad for fans with day 3, 4, 5 tickets. I agree. Do you think anyone will retire after this series? I think yes. I think Khawaja probably will be. Will Ozzy play the last year? He'll definitely play the last test. Last year it was 7mm. Yeah, I don't know why it's more. At last, it's a happy moment for England. Something to cheer them up since they won after 15 long years. It is. It is good. It's good for cricket that Ben Stokes has won his first Test match in Australian soil. Joe Root won his first Test match in Australian soil. It's good for England. The Barmy Army will be celebrating in Melbourne tonight, hanging over to Sydney. They'll be buoyant about the Sydney match. Hopefully, Sydney will go down well. Waiting for ICC pitch rating. Well, don't blame the pitch for the 2 days. It's not only the pitch. I mean, the pitch is ordained by Cricket Australia, and they would have input into of course, they would have been told to do not 10 but 7, but they weren't. I have a question, Norman. That since the test ended in 2 days, will the question arise of quality of the pitch? It certainly is there. Yes. Matthew Page, I think his name is, will be under some scrutiny. But let's not forget, he doesn't just do it independent to the organisation. They'd be aware of what the pitch was like. If they would have sent it 2 or 3 days out and said there was too much grass on it, they could have instructed it to reduce the grass to make it more a balanced pitch, but they didn't. So I'm sure there would be some say as to the quality of the pitch or where the pitch is heading. Because again, pitch is for both teams. So if you have less or more grass, that affects both teams equally. So it's not unfair or more fair to one side. But I tell you what, they got some answers. Had this ended in Asia, especially in India, the world would have come up with a show. That's true. If it was in India, it was doctored, it was deliberate, blah blah blah. How bad it was, how below par it was. There's a lot of commentary about it being that way. That's a fair comment, and it should be said. It should be asked. I've seen some Indian commentators, fairly unimportant Indian commentators, by the way, have brought that up. It's more they're more that particular channel is just sensationalising it, and it shouldn't be sensationalised. It's about being constructive, not sensationalised. We should never sensationalise something and make it a bigger deal than it really is. I'm quite sick of that type of fairly low level commentary that you're going to talk about the pitch only. Broadcasters will be unhappy with the cricket. Of course they will. They'll be unhappy with Cricket Australia for certain. You are wanting 5 days of coverage. The Channel 7s and Foxtels in Australia and the worldwide feeds will want at least 4 days, not 2. When will Sanger, Kellaway, Henry Hunt get their chance? Kellaway. Well, Kellaway maybe not yet. Henry Hunt maybe not. But I would like to see Jason Sanger. You know that he should be number 3. Labuschagne. My team now. Weatherall's out, in my opinion. Should be out. Josh English is back in. Quads is there for the moment until he retires. 3 should not be Labuschagne. It should be Jason Sanger. Followed by Smith, Head, Carey, and both either Bo Webster or Cam Green. Then the bowls. If the team is management wants these kind of pitches, exactly, they've got something to do with it. Pitch was certainly green, but there is a connection to the organisation that runs Cricket Australia and the pitches. That there has to be. They are leasing the use of the ground. They would want it prepared in a certain manner, not doctored, not favouring one side. They're fair to both sides, but I'm sure they would not have said they would be able to have looked at the fact there was 10 millimeters of grass and said cut it short, but they didn't. What's your previous comment? I can't find a previous comment. A bowling pitch will always bring results because batting pitches will bring a draw. That's a fair point. It brought a result, but 2 days of Test cricket is not long enough. Let's be honest. A bowling pitch does bring a result. Yes, that's true. And batting will bring a draw, but Test cricket is also about draws. It's about 5 days of attrition. The word test implies Test cricket. It's a test of ability, test of patience, test a war of attrition in play. So that's why we look at a 5 test being. If you're a true Test supporter, that's what you would look at. All right, guys, I might end it there. Guys, any more questions? Do you know Patterson has an average of 115 and 3 tests in his plate? Yeah, I know. He was a great player, Curtis Patterson, for New South Wales. He shouldn't have been pulled out either. Jason Sanger should be in there. He was Australia's under-19 captain. He was the winner of the Sheffield Shield last year with Ben Manetti in South Australia. He hit the winning runs. He had the highest batting aggregate and I think averages as well, but not even considered. Should be number 3. Labuschagne should be out. Weatherall has been awful, in my opinion. Except for 170, he's done very little since then. He's got a very awkward batting style. It's very limiting and is not worthy of Test selection. With those 2 earrings, Cricket Australia should send their cricketers to the BBL to play BBL. Yeah, well, that's a fair point. They got days to spare, but they're going to keep them fit for the Test matches as a priority. Let's be honest. All right, guys, I'll end it there. So view, like, and share the posters. This is a review of this 4th Test. The first 3 we've talked about a bit as well, where Australia should have, well, were lucky to win the first Test. Travis said saved the day. England could well have won that, would have been 1-0 up. They certainly didn't deserve to win Brisbane. England, Australia won them. Adelaide, pretty much Australia's way as well. Australia should have been 2-1 up and should have been 2-2 after this, having a very exciting last Test match in Sydney. But unfortunately, it won't be quite that dramatic because Australia have already won the Ashes series 3-1 at this point. Well, leading 3-0 now, 3-1. And let's see if England can bring it back to 3-2. When can we get? Okay, when can we get? I can't read that. Hang on. When can we get to know about 5th Test squad? Won't be long away. In fact, I don't think Australian 5th Test squads will actually change very much. Why Test cricket is only getting limited to this? I don't know. I don't know. You have to ask your broadcasters why that is. It's worth going with that. I'm not happy, but enjoyed watching the test. I'm not happy with the length of the test too. I'm not happy with the length of the test, but I enjoyed watching it. It was riveting test match. In terms of 36 wickets in less than 2 days. 36 wickets less than 2 days. 20 was a record since almost a century ago when they had a game where 20 test wickets fell in 1 day, and they had 16 in the second day. Incredible. But England survived. They won the match. All right, guys. I've gone an hour now. All the best. If you like and share the post, subscribe, continue to watch. I'll see you soon. This is Eyes on Cricket or Eyes on Sports with Norman Kochner. Take care. Stay tuned for the Sydney Cricket Ground Test. I'll be all over it. I'll be live. I'll be there. Hopefully, I'll have David Graveney and colleagues on there as well to join me. All right. You take care. Any last questions? Ireland's doing good. Yes, Ireland are doing good. See you later, Paul. All right. All the best. Take care, guys.